Hi, everyone. We have a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about something from Hope Edelman called After Grief. Stay tuned for more on that. Angela's going to talk to us about hydration and staying hydration, particularly as we move into the spring and summer months. Jim has a great article lined up for us today called What the New CDC Mask Guidelines Mean for Your Mental Health. And our special guest today is Rachael McGuffin, talking about 75 Hard Challenge. All of that and more on today's show. Let's get started.
Welcome to your Healthy by Association Weekly Wellness Check with Aaron Wolowick, Angela Pelk, and Jim Thompson.
Welcome, everyone, to the show. This is Healthy by Association. My name is Aaron Wolowick. It is Friday, May 21st, and we're so happy to have you here with us today. Our special guest today is Rachael McGuffin. We're so excited to have her. Rachael, we would love for you to share with us a little bit about who you are, maybe your organization, and your connection to health and wellness, and what brings you to HBA today.
All right. So I am Rachael McGuffin, as he said. I work for the International Society of Automation. We're located in Raleigh, the Raleigh-Durham area. It's called Research Triangle Park, but a lot of people don't understand that. But I'm from the Raleigh area. What brought me to HBA? So the pandemic gave me a whole new look on my physical and mental health. And Andrea Hollebach, which has been one of your past guest speakers, and she's my boss, told me about HBA and suggested I join the group. So here I am.
Well, we're excited to have you here today. And, we love on the show peeping into people's homes. And your house behind you looks so beautiful. I love kind of seeing people's spaces and the spaces that they work in and get to call home, I guess, when they return from work, but also now in these work from home times during the workday as well. So we'll jump into your topic here in a little bit. Rachael, we love to, on this show, kind of check in. It is a weekly wellness check after all. So typically we'll go around the panel and just kind of say hello, but also kind of get a check-in on our health and wellness this week on a scale from 1 to 10. And so, Angela, I'll turn to you first. It's great to see you, as always. Tell us kind of where you're at this week and why.
Hey, HBA friends. This has been a pretty good week. I was just, I brought up with my girlfriend, Gail, who I walk with in the morning. I'm like, hey, we're 5 for 5 this week. So while I'm not pushing play on my any Beachbody stuff right now, I'm starting a new program on Monday. We've been walking, and that's been really great. I've been fitting in a little bit more walking, like before the soccer game. Like, we have to get the kid there 45 minutes beforehand, and some of these places have a track, so I just wear my shoes and I do like a mile loop or whatever. So movement has been really good this week. Nutrition has been pretty good this week, so I'm gonna say things are looking up. I'm gonna go with a solid 8 this week. So that's
awesome. I love that.
Feels good.
I'll just hop in briefly and say I think I'm at an 8 as well. My mother-in-law is in town this week. She's just about to head off to the airport. And so our schedule is a little off, and I've not walked as much. We've eaten out a few times as well, but I think the 8 is because we've still been walking every day. We've not been doing as much, but we've still been getting that movement in. And despite sort of eating out a couple of times, I've been super intentional about what I've ordered from the menu, been really thoughtful about drinking water before a cocktail, all of the things. And so I feel pretty good and balanced this week. Despite all of that other stuff, all of which is good, but just very different than my normal schedule. And I'll say that it gives me some hope and confidence that as we return back to the road and offsite with clients, that it's something that I can keep maintaining. It wasn't until she had seen me this week that wait for it, everyone. I realized that since January 1st, I've lost 30 pounds.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, that's
That's
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah.
Let
That's
that
so
like sink
great.
in for folks, right? So
Wow.
Yeah.
anyway, so it feels good, and I feel somewhat confident that I could maybe maintain that when we're back out. So, Jim, want to
Yay
check
for
in with
you.
you. It's good to see you as always. How the heck
Yeah.
are you, and where are you on that scale?
So I would say I'm probably around 7, 7.5. We can use points, right? We can have points.
Yep.
Yeah. based on last week's episode, we could do that.
That's right. I started the trend.
That's right. 7.75.
Yeah.
No, pretty good. Had some pretty good night. Some decent sleep this week, which has been nice for a change. I know, right? And had did a nice ruck over the weekend, nice 4-mile ruck, and played some pickleball on Sunday morning, and continuing with my my exercise challenges that I've been doing, and definitely on the health and wellness, the food piece has been really good. The nutrition, just really, continuing to monitor that, trying to do a good job with that. And I'm kind of like Aaron. I haven't really lost any weight, but I've been maintaining things for quite a while. So, which is always a good thing. So, maintenance is always nice. The clothes still fit.
Well, Rachel, that's great. That's I was going to say that's all that matters. That's not true. That's one thing that matters, right? And a range of other things, but it's always, I think, feels good. It helps for sure. So, Rachel, you sort of get the hang of it at this point. So, in this weekly wellness check, just kind of reflecting on your week and health and wellness, where might you rate yourself along that scale, and why?
Well, we're going to go with an 8. And the reason I say that is I have been doing pretty good with my workouts every day. I got a really good night's sleep last night, which was very helpful. And I feel very energized today to keep it going because I tend to kind of tailor off as the weekend comes about. But I feel overall, I do my workout every day. I drink a gallon of water every day. And I think this week has been pretty good. There was a couple little cheat things that I did that, like, I typically don't try to drink alcohol during the week. I wait for the weekend, but this week I did have some alcohol earlier in the week. So, it is what it is. But overall, I'm going to say an 8.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. And, part of this, as a reminder for our viewers, is not necessarily to judge, blame, shame, attack, but just to notice. We can go weeks, if not months, without making adjustments to our health and wellness routine when we don't take the time to notice and be aware. And that's really what we're advocating for here, is to not blame, shame, or attack, but really just to kind of check in with yourself and maybe even leverage the upcoming weekend as an opportunity to make changes if needed. So I brought our first story today. It's just struck me. I set it aside and I came back to it actually again. And so I want to introduce this topic to you all today and kind of get your take on it. It's something called after grief. After grief, as sort of all one word, capital A, capital G. There's a writer by the name of Hope Edelman who introduces this topic in a book called The After Grief: Finding Your Way Along the Long Arc of Loss. She really, so we've been talking about grief as a company, as, HBA and beyond for quite some time, particularly over the last year and a half. I have a slide up actually on my screen now that I just want to talk through briefly that just reminds us that COVID, the pandemic, and losses that we've experienced as a result of the pandemic have affected us, either individually, as teams, as organizations, as families, whether we've experienced loss of control, loss of livelihood, actual physical loss of friends and family, loss of coping skills and independence, and the list goes on. And that threw us into, in many cases, various emotional states, including grief. I remember, I think it was last April or May, where we introduced the topic of we're experiencing grief right now. And the traditional cycle of grief sends us through denial, anger, depression, bargaining, and acceptance. And what Hope Edelman is really suggesting is that, yes, those things probably happen. But if we boil it down even simpler and think about our own sort of emotional and mental health, that really you can think about grief in terms of 2 stages, sort of grief that you experience that's very intense. It could last several months or longer, a year or 2. This is as a result of any of the things that I just mentioned. And, we all sort of have our various coping mechanisms to get through it. But again, that very emotional, intense state when you're going through it. But that the second stage of grief really begins when that mourning sort of is set aside and you re-enter the world. You sort of wake up in the morning, and loss, grief isn't the first thing that you think about every single day. And it really resonated with me that is sort of what we are approaching now. So much news across the United States this week, particularly in Michigan, my home state, certainly where Angela is as well, in terms of, the end in sight as all of the parameters and restrictions begin to be lifted. And it just kind of reminded me of, like, as we begin to reemerge, it's not like the grief, it's not like the memory of the pandemic or all of the things associated with it are gone, but we start to move forward. We start to become hopeful. We do the first thing that we haven't done in a year and a half or 2 years. And it's just an interesting concept. And so I just wanted to turn back to the panel. And as we think about this topic of after grief, how does that strike you? What are your thoughts about that? Have you experienced that sort of first that you haven't had the opportunity to do since the pandemic struck? And Angela, I see your head nodding, so perhaps I'll turn to you first for just kind of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, just last night, in fact, it's so weird. My son is wrapping up his 7th grade year, and, we have a lot of friends who are 8th graders, and 8th grade graduation is like the biggest deal in the Catholic school life, up to this point. And so, there's all like this kind of moving on, and they had like a big talent show yesterday. Oh, which I'll have to share a video with you guys, of my son beatboxing, which was absolutely amazing. But last night they had their band concert, and it was outside, which they had never done before. Usually it's in the church or in the gym or whatever, but it felt so normal. And it was just so enjoyable to listen to these like young musicians like doing their thing. And the band teacher said, they've been working on this music. They chose this music in December of 2019. They chose this music a year and a half ago to do for their spring concert 2020, which never happened. And so it was really cool, like, to hear them finally, like the big, culmination of their whole, everything they've been working on for like a year and a half. So I'm like, I know all these songs, but it was really cool to hear it all put together. And, it was such a beautiful evening in Michigan last night. And it was great. But I guess you hardly know what you've been missing until you have that experience of what you don't realize you haven't had in a long time. So that was just like sort of a joyful moment. I wouldn't say it was after grief, but I was kind of like, wow, we just haven't been able to do this in so long. It was just a great, great day.
Jim, I'm going to turn to you next. If you want to comment on this topic of after grief, great, but I also felt like your topic really connected with mine for today when you brought forward this article, what the new CDC mask guidelines mean for your mental health. And actually I went out to dinner last night. We've been going out to dinner, but this was the first time I went out to dinner where the servers weren't wearing masks, and that was another new first for me. So would love to hear kind of your thoughts on this topic as well.
Yeah, no, going back to the original topic about the after grief thing, I think that's been what's really been interesting, is seeing some of these things that are starting to open up again. And it's like, I'm excited, but I'm also a little bit anxious too. I mean, in the sense that, we've been taught for, over a year now that, being around crowds of people and being around, and especially without wearing masks, is you're not supposed to do it. And so there's, we've been taught that for so long. So that's sort of ingrained in our heads that that's supposed to be the case. And, we have the North Carolina connection, with in Raleigh, the Carolina Hurricanes. They are in the playoffs. And it was surreal the other day watching some of the footage of the game and seeing 12,000 people in the stands again. And that just, I mean, I was kind of excited, but a little bit also a little anxious too, a little because of that. I mean, just that thought of like, all of a sudden all these people are just now back together again, like nothing ever really happened. It was like almost surreal. But so I guess that's kind of where I'm at. And that kind of goes to the whole idea with the masks thing, and it's, now that all these mandates are being lifted and we can kind of sort of return to normal, there's that balance of, some people are just like, absolutely throw the mask off, this is fantastic. And then others are, a little more apprehensive because, again, we've been taught for so long now that this is sort of the way that we're supposed to be. And now all of a sudden we're saying now undo that. And so, the anxiety around that's a little bit, it's real. I mean, it's there.
Yeah.
Well, and it's hard to, I think you just remind us that we've been conditioned for the past almost year and a half to wear masks and to act a certain way and to socially distance ourselves from others. And so to flip the switch is definitely, I think, interesting, challenging, and conflicting for so many folks. I think the other thing that I saw on Twitter this week, and I wish I had it to show everyone. It really was hilarious. But somebody had tweeted like, CDC, like, I look terrible today. Like, you didn't give me any notice. You didn't tell me that like in a week or 2 weeks. Like, just flip the switch.
That's
and I just think that
hilarious.
it's a good representation of sort of what our experience was
Right.
one day it was one thing and then the next day it was something else. And so
it
does take a toll, I think, on our mental state and just kind of reacclimating to kind of this, again, new, I won't call it normal, but this sort of new way of life.
Well,
so Rachel,
exactly. Well, no, it was just funny you said that about the face thing. Because we were at a soccer party with my daughter, and it was so interesting because I didn't even recognize some of the girls. Like, I didn't even recognize them because the whole season I'd only seen them with their masks on, and now all of a sudden we're having lunch, dinner together, but everybody has their masks off, and it's like it was just so odd because it's like I didn't even recognize any of these kids. Like, who are these people?
Well,
Weird.
speaking of mental health, Rachel, I know you brought forward for us today this program called 75 Hard. I'm reading that it's a transformative mental toughness program. And, it seems as though mental health has become a bigger and bigger topic for us, certainly on the show, over the last several months, if not longer. We would love to hear more about the program and what you can share with us about it.
Okay, so just to give you a little background, my husband listens to a lot of different podcasts, and one of the podcasts he was listening to was talking about the 75 Hard Mental Toughness Challenge. So he went and listened to Andy Frisillo, who actually developed this challenge. He went and listened to his podcast and came home and said, hey, you've been talking about how you want to get in shape, and we were in this pandemic. And, you're hearing of people gaining weight because we're in a pandemic and because people are all at home and nobody's doing anything. So he was like, why don't you take a listen to this and let me know what you think? So I did. And just to give you some other background, both my husband and I have put on some weight over the years. We've been married, I think this is our 8th year. Oh God, I shouldn't say that out loud. I'm pretty sure it's 8 years this year. And I struggle with an autoimmune disease. Yeah, I have an autoimmune disease. So my weight has it's been up, it comes down. It has never been down as far as I would like it to be, but it fluctuates. And I have a lot of inflammation in my body. So last year I hit that 3-year mark with my remission, and my weight finally plateaued. So it was kind of at a point where I wasn't really gaining any weight and I wasn't really losing any weight. And I started walking 3 miles a day. And that was when the pandemic, we were home for a couple months, and I'm like, okay, this isn't, nothing's happening. I got to start doing it. I got to stay active. So, and that was around the same time he heard of the program. So I listened to it, and he was like, are you up for it? And I was like, I'll be honest, looking at all that was required, I was really nervous, but it was doable. So I can't say like, oh God, it's no way I could do this. Like there's no possible way. No, it's definitely doable. It's just looking at it as the big picture. You're just like, wow. So, and again, since we weren't really clear how long we were going to be in lockdown with the pandemic, we decided to take on the challenge. And our anniversary was coming up last year. We started the program in July. And our anniversary was in the end of September, and we were going to be finishing up in around that time. So we were like, let's do this and let's celebrate for our anniversary on our results. So we did it. But I can tell you a little bit more about the program if y'all are interested, just knowing what was required of it. Okay.
Yeah.
So you had to, there were requirements. You had to follow a diet. You could do any diet you wanted. So like if somebody does the keto diet, they could do that. If you did like no carb diet, whatever it is, I know keto is no carb, but there's a lot more to it. But there's a lot of different diets you can choose from. So any diet. So one of the things I did, because I already had the videos, I did 21 Day Fix, which is a portion control diet. So that was the diet we decided to follow. Then there was the caveat of 2 45-minute workouts. One of those had to be outside, and they cannot be consecutive. So you can't do 2 45-minute workouts in a row and make it an hour and a half. You have to do 1 45-minute one outside. You had to do 1 45-minute one inside, or whatever you wanted to do. It could be outside still, but one of them had to be outside, rain or shine, snow, whatever it may be, had to be outside. No alcohol. Like you could not drink anything for 75 days. And then you took a progress photo every day. So you could see your progression as you went throughout the whole entire 75 days. And then there was a gallon of water, and read 10 pages of nonfiction, and audiobooks couldn't count. So the one cool thing about the 10 pages is I was studying for my CAE. So I was like, I got that one in the bag.
Nice.
Because I was reading way more than 10 pages a day.
Nice.
So it was like, might as well. It works out really well. So, but the thing is if you fail to complete any of those requirements in your day, you had to start all over from day one. And my husband and I were both, we are not starting over. And again, this is all a mental challenge. It's not like you're signing up to do this. It's not like you're paying money to do this. You're doing this for yourself. And I'm like, I'm not starting over. 75 days is a long time. It really wasn't, but 75 days is a long time. And we made it through. I lost 30 pounds. My husband lost almost 50.
Wow.
That's awesome.
I mean, it really sounds like, Angela, kind of what we've talked about in the past in terms of creating healthy habits and just really kind of setting some clear expectations, and just getting in the habit of doing it every day, because it's easy to do something 3 or 4 days in a row. It's much more difficult to do something for 75 days in a row. All of which are probably good and healthy and supporting your overall well-being anyway, but still it's really easy to want to take a day off or to just let it slide. So I really commend you all for that. I'll be posting, certainly after the show, links to my article on after grief, Jim's article about mass, and your 75 hard challenge as well. So if folks are interested, they can certainly get more information there as well. Angela, we're going to have to hold off on talking a little bit more about hydration until next week. The time has flown by, as usual. But I want to certainly thank everyone for joining us this week. Rachael, if folks are interested in more information about that challenge or kind of your experience with that challenge, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, they can reach me through Facebook, or they can send me an email. You can send it to my personal email at rdmcguffin@gmail.com. You'll see my spelling of my last name probably in the post. So, but yeah, just reach out to me. I love sharing my story in this. It was just really a great overall thing for my health.
Awesome. Well, in our sort of final minute or two, Angela, maybe you can just briefly share with us kind of your thoughts on hydration and maybe what you're experiencing this week.
Yeah, just drink your water. Don't forget to drink your water. Don't get careless about it. Michigan has turned into a tropical paradise. It was like 90 degrees yesterday, and our talent show, like I said, was outside in like the burning, blaring sun, and I was glad that I brought a big old water with me. So just don't forget about it. Get it in early and get in lots of ounces. Rachael, you said you're drinking a gallon of water a day. That's got to be just amazing for your skin and just keeping you properly hydrated and not probably like staving off any hunger cues because you're filling up on water. So it was really just a PSA. Drink your water, you guys. Right now.
Yes.
I have,
Cheers.
as we come back, I have my water here as well. It's never far away in terms
That's
of
right.
water. We had posted recently, I think in HBA, just some healthy ideas for
Water.
ice cubes as well. Putting, a little
Mhm.
fruit or whatever in your
Fruit.
ice cubes,
Yeah.
not just in your water, but also in your ice cubes. And I thought that was a great idea as well. Well,
Yeah.
that is going to do it for us today. We'll remind you that next week, Treese Turner is joining us. We're excited to have her on the show. Also, we have opened up, again, all of our guest panelist slots between now and the end of the year. So do take a look in our Facebook community to sign up for any of those slots that are remaining. If you have a story to share, much like Rachael has with us today, for which we are so grateful. In the meantime, this has been Healthy by Association. And until next week, everyone, please remember to power your life with health, wellness, and intention. We'll see you next week.